right, let's do it. It's the Thursday evening, or Friday Eve, as I like to call it, edition of Weather for Weather Geeks, the Valley's most in-depth weather forecast. And at this time of the year, with this kind of a pattern, there's no shortage of things to talk about. So let's get right to it, so this video doesn't turn out to be, an hour long. Help if I loaded up my graphics, wouldn't it? You would think I'd be prepared for this, but sometimes I forget to hit a few buttons. Here we go. Lows this morning, very, very impressive. These are approximate lows this morning at some of our backyard weather sensors. 0, -1, pretty common throughout some parts of the region, including my house in Boardman. I actually had 1 below at about 6:30 this morning. At the airport this morning, it reached 1 degree above 0, and that was our coldest temperature at the Youngstown Warren Airport in almost a year, since January the 7th, earlier on this year. It was the last time we hit 1 degree. A lot of people are asking me on social media, hey, what about the ice on the Great Lakes? With this kind of weather, will the lakes freeze up? Will that cut down on the lake effect as we go deeper into the winter? And, in this kind of pattern, with the way January is likely to shape up, I suspect Lake Erie is going to freeze over this year for the first time in a few years. Already seeing some decent amounts of ice here in the orange across the shallower end of Lake Erie. That's the western end, back towards Toledo and Sandusky. But even in the deeper eastern end, seeing some patches of ice in the northern areas of Lake Erie. Across the other Great Lakes, patches of ice. Erie is the shallowest of the Great Lakes, and so it tends to freeze up much earlier than the others. Some very rarely freeze up, including Lake Ontario. But this year, I'd say the chances are looking decent that we're going to see Lake Erie freeze up, and yes, indeed, that would greatly reduce the lake effect snow possibilities during the second half of the winter. We oftentimes talk about lake effect snow around here. Well, with our fantastic new high-res satellite, GOES 16, real cool way to check out bay effect snow across the Mid-Atlantic region. This is Chesapeake Bay right here. This is the Delaware Bay. And when you have air this cold going over the ocean and over the bays, you can get bay effect clouds and snow. And this little band of snow meandered down towards Norfolk earlier on today. These are all ocean effect clouds. As well. Very, very cold air blowing over the relatively warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean and the Delaware and Chesapeake Bays. Also of interest is an area you might be familiar with up in New York. These are the Finger Lakes. These little skinny lakes look like fingers across parts of western and west central New York. And if you look carefully, there's little bands of moisture coming off those Finger Lakes and producing snow downwind of some of the deeper lakes, such as Seneca Lake and Cayuga Lake. Producing little skinny bands of clouds and snow. Very cool stuff. All right, no lake effect for us tonight. A general snowfall for us tonight, but it's not going to be much. This is going to dust the ground in a lot of places as it comes east. Might see 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. The impacts, though, are what we want to concentrate on, because you're not going to go out with a ruler and measure 1/2 inch of snow. But you might slide around a little bit if you're out driving late tonight. First thing tomorrow morning, when it's this cold out, 1/2 inch of snow, even 1/4 inch of snow, can cause enough slick spots to be impactful. Boy, the cold is getting ready to, it's just reloading, and it's getting set to come south again. This is a relentless pattern. Look at these air temperatures up in Canada near the Arctic Circle, 20, 30, even 40 below in some spots, and chunks of this are going to keep coming south. It's certainly not going to be this cold here, but as long as the pattern allows this cold to keep coming south and not stay locked up there, it's going to be pretty nasty. Now, before we get to our snow, our next chance for some snow, I want to talk briefly about the lake effect. Erie can't catch a break. I actually think this model's underdone some with at least the first half of this. This looks a little bit better as the snow continues to add up. This is through Sunday, and from Mentor on east through Ashtabula, up through Erie, into Chautauqua, parts of Cattaraugus counties in New York. Someplace they're going to get a foot of snow again, maybe even 18 inches in parts of southwest New York, but around Erie, where they just picked up 60-something inches of snow over the course of like 3 days, another foot or so coming their way. So they can't catch a break, unfortunately. Well, we're not going to catch much of a break in terms of the cold, but no big snows are coming our way. We get clipped with, again, less than 1 inch tonight. Tomorrow's a relatively uneventful day, just cold with more clouds than sunshine. This next system is a little more organized, and so I think the chances are higher of maybe a couple of inches worth of snow coming out of this. This is tomorrow night and heading into the day on Saturday. This will start as a light, what we call a synoptic snow. In other words, everyone gets about the same. But then it'll kind of transition as the low pushes east. It'll transition into more of a lake effect and lake enhanced scattered snow shower kind of a day. coming up on Saturday with the wind coming in off of Lake Erie, and depends on where you are and where these try to go. You could pick up some, some lingering small accumulations on Saturday that could make travel a little bit tough. And the lakes will still be open for business on Sunday. With you see the wind direction here; it's out of the northwest, and so at least there'll be a few flurries around. Probably nothing substantial, but a few flurries around for New Year's Eve on Sunday. Now, in terms of the second system, Friday night into Saturday, for most of the Mahoning and Shenango valleys, in total, between the synoptic snow and the scattered lake effect Saturday, 2-3 inches will be fairly common, I think. Could someone get 4, especially in the northern areas of Trumbull and Mercer? Yeah, that's possible. But I think 1, 2, 3 inches, a pretty common amount for Friday night into Saturday. Weekend forecast. 19 Saturday, only 13 for the final day of the year on Sunday. Wind chills on Saturday, 10 degrees or so. Wind chill Sunday, probably closer to 0. And again, I don't think Sunday's snow showers and flurries really add up to much more, just kind of conversational snow coming up on Sunday. And same idea for New Year's Day on Monday. All right, longer range. This is a look at the European ensemble modeling temperatures. We're stuck in this for a week. There's no getting around it. This is the next week right here. And actually, the coldest weather compared to average might be at the end of next week. We might have a day where we stay in the single digits next Friday. And then after that, we'll probably see not a warm pattern, but a less severely cold pattern for the second week of January. Now, in terms of our weather next week, I'm going to show you the European model here. Pretty benign, just very, very cold weather next week. The cold's going to be more impactful next week because everyone's back to work and school next week. And we could have some mornings with temperatures near 0 and wind chills, probably a handful of degrees below 0, and that could lead to some school adjustments and some inconveniences for next week. So, a lot of people are off this week. Certainly the schools are off this week, but some people are off work as well. Next week, most people it's kind of back to business, and it's going to be just as cold as it is now, if not a little bit colder. But snow is not a big concern next week. Fast forwarding to the end of the week, though, look what the Europeans doing. It's creating a big storm for New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, maybe. This is probably an extreme solution. Not really buying this just yet, but it's on the table that a decent snowstorm impacts parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Probably too far to the east, no matter which way you slice it, too far to the east to be much of a problem for us. I don't think snow is much of a problem for us next week. It's going to be the cold that's going to continue to be relentless. Well, as I mentioned last night, tomorrow we will do a year in review, Weather for Weather Geeks. We'll talk about some of the stats for 2017. We'll do a January forecast, because of course January 1st is coming up on Monday. So we'll take a look at what temperatures and precipitation should be like as we go into the first month of 2018. So look for that tomorrow evening, same time, same place. Hope you have a great Thursday night, and check out my updated 7-day forecast tonight on 21 News at 11. Hope to see you then.